So welcome to today's session, Building Community, another day of Active Teaching Lab. We can get started here today. I am going to share, again, just for the people who just recently came in on the chat, just so they make sure that they can see it as well. This is the collaborative document right here that we always do. So if you have any questions about online community building, what are some problems that you're facing? Or maybe you think, this last 2 semesters you've been working online and you think, hey, I had some really good stuff that really helped my course sail a lot more smoothly in terms of building a community, building student cohesion. Feel free to add those on there and we can share those and learn from each other. And then at the end of today's session, when Kathy, Ed, and I are done with our little spiel, we're going to get back to those and discuss those a little bit further. So hopefully we can share some more ideas or flesh those out a little bit further. Well, today we are talking about building an online community, and really, especially and today with the COVID pandemic, it's just essential for community building for student success. Way yonder back in 1987, Chickering and Gamson published kind of a seminal work, 7 Principles of Good Practice in Undergraduate Education. There's a link to that article actually on the collaborative handout today. If you just look at the bottom towards the sources. Even before the pandemic, before online learning, Chickering and Gamson in that article had dedicated pretty much 6 of their 7 principles revolved somewhat, or at least partially, around community and building the community in that classroom. It's important. Before online community, before online courses, during this pandemic, and even when we go out of COVID and back into face-to-face learning, community building is important. It helps foster accountability for students, right? Having a relationship with other students, feeling a sense of identity with them, feeling a sense of responsibility towards them, feeling a sense of responsibility and relationship with your instructor really helps boost things like accountability, right? There's a reason that AA and Weight Watchers both have community building as part of those programs, because it builds in accountability when we have those relationships with other people. So it's important. It's important because it creates an active learning environment. People who feel like they have some sort of relationship with another person are willing to open up to those people. Feel that they can talk about things that they maybe aren't necessarily comfortable talking about with strangers. If they have some sort of relationship with others, they're more likely to be more active and engaged in the course, more active, more likely to be collaborative. And it really helps boost the inclusivity of your course to students from all spectrums. So community building is important. And it's for all these other reasons that, Chickering and Gamson might have talked about in 1987, things that we're talking about now and in the future, but also especially when we're all isolated as well, to give students those extra social outlets, right? We aren't necessarily going out to hang out in the coffee shop with our friends. We aren't necessarily going to be seeing our students, our fellow students in the classroom. Having and focusing on building a community in the classroom is really important for students' mental health, building a social outlet for them to participate in during this COVID pandemic. So let's talk about some of the strategies that Kathy, Ed, and I have come up with. And they aren't necessarily ones that are really focused primarily maybe as building the community, right? We may think about, we're just building the community by having, icebreakers in the class, or having a lot of group activities. That's building a community. But there's lots of different ways that you can build a community in your classroom. The one I'm going to be talking about is fostering your presence as an instructor, so instructor presence. Kathy is going to be talking about how to build a community in terms of monitoring student engagement. And Ed is going to be talking about transparency and grading and how that helps build your online community as well. So all 3 of these things help foster and build the online community and help students really kind of feel engaged in the course. And this isn't necessarily talking about discussions or group work. It's talking about grading, talking about analytics. It's talking about you as an instructor. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to start my little spiel right now. So instructor presence. So there's really numerous ways to develop your online presence as an instructor, right? I'm going to focus on 3, but really there's all kinds of things. You can just look up instructor presence online. You can talk about, creating, video feedback for your students. There's actually been active teaching labs on that. You can look through the archives. Virtual office hours, right? Help boost your instructor presence in an online course. engaging in online discussion as an instructor, right? Really, modeling to students what it means to be active in a discussion. Carrie has a question. Carrie, can you, what's your question?
Actually, it's Kari, but you wouldn't know that.
Kari. Sorry.
When you say a welcome video, would that mean as they enter the online space, or in a link to it, or how do you suggest doing that?
Well, great. I'm glad you asked, Kari, because the next slide will be all about that. There's a lot of different ways you can build an online presence. I'm going to be talking about that welcome video, Kari. I'm going to be talking about announcements, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit about the importance of allowing your personality to shine through. So let's just jump into that right now. So I am going to, next one. All right, welcome video. So to pick up with Kari's question, which I really appreciate her asking, just kind of like, what do you do? When do you do it? So really a welcome video is going to do two things for you, right? One, it's just going to basically welcome students to the course. It's going to introduce the course to the students. It's going to talk about, what are we going to cover in this course on medieval history? What are we going to talk about in this actual course? What are some course expectations? What are some of the things I expect from you as a student, right? So it's just a basic introduction to the course. But one of the nice things about it is, one, it's not in text, right? Students are already in an online course. They're going to get just walls of text thrown at them, because that's kind of the nature of teaching and learning in an online environment. A lot of times we're using the written word, and it's really nice to mix up the modality that students are going to engage in, mix up that content a little bit, so that way it sticks better for the students. And it's really nice if you can reinforce the words, or the words in the written form, with words in a verbal form, right? So it allows you to engage students with this content in a different manner, allows them to kind of reinforces it for them, and introduces that content. But the nice thing about a virtual online welcome video at the very beginning of the semester is that it introduces you. You may not talk about yourself, you may talk about all the cats you have, or your avid devotion to all things Doctor Who. But really, students get a sense for you. They get a sense of your cadence. Maybe we'll get to see a picture of you or a video of you describing some of these content. So the video has a dual role of introducing the course and yourself, but it emphasizes your involvement as well, because it places you at the focus of this introduction, right? It places you in the focus. Students can kind of see you and kind of get a little bit of feel for things. And one of the nice things about doing these types of sessions online is that I can just show you as well. So if you'll give me a second, I'll give you an example. Now, this is from a course I taught online in Madison, but it's in Canvas. So some of some of the illustrations will look a little bit different, but it's the same basic principle. So this is my dashboard in Madison. It's basically the same thing as here. And this is the course that I was talking about. So I'm going to click on TA Training and Online Instruction. And here's the course right here. Now there's a home page here, because we could do that sort of thing in Madison. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to show you the video. Now I also did this in the announcement. So the first thing, and I'll show you the announcement in a moment when we're talking about announcements. The first thing the students saw when the first thing communication they got from me as a student and me as an instructor was this video, right? Was an announcement with this video in there. So the students, they kind of got a sense of my writing style, and they got a sense of me as an instructor. So I'm going to pop this open, and we'll just watch very quickly.
Hi, and welcome to TA Training and Online Instruction. Excited to have you in this course and look forward to getting to know all of you. My name is Lane Slinwell, and I'll be your instructor throughout this week. Just for a point of reference, the best way to contact me is through the Conversations inbox button, which is on the left side of your screen in the red global navigation bar. And you can also talk to me during one of the course's 5 online office hours, or you can also arrange something else. I'm more than happy to talk with you. Also, I just wanted to use this video to briefly introduce you to the course, and also just to kind of maybe lower your bar of expectations for what a course introduction video can be. Really, it doesn't have to be as kind of high production as some of the course introduction videos that you're going to see in today's module, which are some really cool examples of what instructors can do. Maybe that's not something that you have time or the resources to do right away. This right now, what I'm creating is something I'm just using my MacBook Air and just recording directly using Kaltura's screen capture video, which is capturing both my video and my screen. You can set it to be a couple different.
And I go on, and that's too long. It should not be 7 minutes. It should have been closer to 5. You also notice that I have no hair on my face, but I have hair on my head. So it's a little bit old, and I probably, do things a little bit differently now. But it gives you a sense of what this could look like, right? This gives you an idea of, where this course is going and kind of some of the things that I find are important. Like, I really thought it was important to students to know right away, hey, you can reach out to me. So besides the movement of the hair down to the bottom part of my face, what else stood out in the video? What worked? What could have been improved? Sarah, she thinks it's a good example, and she really liked that you could point out how to click to the inbox button. Yeah, absolutely. Not assuming, I was trying throughout this course not to assume that students knew how to use Canvas, and that maybe that they needed some introduction to some of the tools, or just to make certain that they knew how to actually reach out to me. Going step by steps, add captions, that would be an excellent one as well. And I believe Kaltura, and I know that like Dylan and Sarah and Kathy and Ed could say Kaltura just is going to add or is adding captions automatically now. So that should hopefully be taken care of. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Visibility of both the screen and the instructor. Yes, absolutely. And I was just doing this with Kaltura Capture. And so I just had my picture, and then I just had the screen capture going on as well. I have to correct a few things. Dylan has a comment he'd like to make. He's raising his hand. Dylan.
Oh, thanks, Lane. I just wanted to address the captioning issue. They're not automatically created, so when we upload a video, they don't just show up. You do have to order them. So it's a simple process, and it doesn't take that long for them to be automatically captioned, and then you have to go in and just make sure they're accurate. But it is an easy process. I will, add totally easy to do. I'll pop our documentation into the chat here in just a second.
Awesome, thank you. So that way people know how to do it, where to go, and how to order that. Ed, could you talk to Carrie? Maybe just pull her to the side, just in a side chat, or Kathy, just to talk a little bit about what and where Kaltura is. I'm just going to keep going, just so that way her question gets asked as well. All right, answered as well. Absolutely, adding captions, but I think really, again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You can find other welcome videos. If you just Google welcome videos or course welcome videos, you're going to see other examples. Some of them are super highly polished, and mine wasn't, but it really worked for the students. It was just an opportunity for my students to see me and to see me in context of the course, because this is an entirely online course, and I had students from around the world, and it just helped us to kind of focus in on the course itself. I am going to show you, so that's the course welcome video, and all I did was use Kaltura, and I popped it in using the rich text editor. So I didn't do anything fancy, nothing outside of using Kaltura and Canvas. Been great for you to explain why you're so excited to teach a class. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, and that's something I do. If you would have watched the full 7 minutes, I should have got to that a little bit sooner. Explain why I was teaching the course, what we were trying to get out of it. I explained some of the objectives of the course, and that's something I think that would have been important, I think, even earlier than in the part where I was talking about too. Yes, actually, I don't have the hair on the head, but I do actually still have the same shirt and tie. Okay, let's see. So there's the how I created it. Next thing I wanted to talk about was announcements briefly as well. Announcements can be a really powerful tool, and let's bring this. I'll show you some of the announcements in that course as well. It can be a really important tool for which you can really kind of reach out to students and really help declutter. I gotta get. Excuse me. I'm gonna bring this up. Declutter some of your synchronous sessions. So I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to go to announcements just so I can show you some of the announcements from the beginning of that course. Let's go down there. Okay. I don't know if this was in the first announcement that maybe this was, but we were, this is one of the first announcements that I had to the course. And it's a really awesome opportunity to declutter some of the time that I had reserved for synchronous sessions. For synchronous sessions, you only have so much time before you have to let them go again. Announcements are a nice way to add some content in there, some administrative minutia, maybe some instructions on how to sign up for the Collaborate Ultra, or even links to the Collaborate Ultra session, just to get the administrative minutia out of the way so students have to worry about it, or you don't have to worry about it when you're doing the face-to-face section as well. So what you see right there is that I have, a little bit of information about, oh, hey, I've updated the home screen, and I've also the online teaching persona page that you can see the video that I'm talking about, the welcome video. And then also I have a little bit of information about some of the mistakes I think I made later on in that video, and to let students know about how to find the announcement button and where that would be and how that would pop up. Let's go. So that's just kind of an early announcement. But what you see also through that announcement as well is that you see my personality as well. That you see that I've put all uppercase, awesome job, right? Exclamation mark, right? I'm trying to exude excitement that, hey, I'm interested in what we're doing. I'm excited to be here. I'm interested in the students as well. And you can do that just by the tone of voice. And that's the nice thing about having announcements, is that you can convey a little bit of your personality through them as well. I'm going to kind of take this part off, and I'm going to switch up the pages so just so I can show you the last bit of slides that I have before I turn this over to Kathy, because I'm feeling that I'm going too long. Let's see. There we go. Switch to this one. All right. Popping that open. Excellent. So again, announcements are an awesome way of giving students some administrative details, preparing students for the class as well. It's also an excellent way of what I needed to talk about next was some really keys to doing good announcements. And one is being positive, right? When you have an announcement and it's been the students just really bombed an exam, it's not a good idea to start, oh man, you guys really screwed that one up. What's up? It's really more of a, hey, I see we've maybe struggled with this exam. We're going to have a study session. We're going to work on some of the problems that we struggled with, and we are going to then move on to the next section and just ace it, right? Being positive, looking forward to something that you can do together, again, kind of reinforces that, one, you're working with them, that this isn't just a you and them, that we're all working on this together. Sarah, hopefully, I think is talking some, hopefully those announcements. Ed, if there's an announcement I need, or a question I need to deal with, please let me know, or Kathy. The next thing with announcements on really kind of developing a community is that these announcements need to be consistent, right? You need to have these announcements continuously throughout the semester, preferably at the same time each week. And fortunately for us is that you can delay the posting of these announcements, so that way other students, you can have them set to be released at a certain time, and you don't have to make sure you always do it and remember to do it in the morning or something. But having announcements at a consistent pace around the same time so students can anticipate them and like, hey, this is going to be coming up. I need to be looking for this announcement. Finally, what I really want you to come away with on announcements is these announcements should be actionable as well. If you read any of the marketing emails that you've ever gotten in your life, if you get something from Target, Target isn't going to say, hey, you should go over to our website, off, right? And then just leave it at that, right? They're going to give you not only something that you should do, go check out our website, but they're going to give you the link to that website as well, right? So you should be positive. You should get these emails out consistently, but you should also, at the end of them, have something for the students to do. Hey, let's go check out the welcome video for this week. And then not only just say something they should do, but make it easy for them to do it as well. And you have a hyperlink to your welcome video. Absolutely. Dylan, you had another comment.
Yeah, thanks, Lane. I just wanted to add that the nice thing I think about Canvas announcements is that it uses the same sort of technology engine in Canvas as the discussion, so you can have students reply to announcements. So if you're talking about something that is actionable, it could send them somewhere, but you could also ask them to respond in that area. And even though it's not a formal discussion area, it is a space where if you're asking them, hey, students, do you have any questions about this particular assignment? They can post them there. Everyone can see them, and it's all right there, right when they go to that home page.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dylan. That is a really helpful tip of how you can increase that kind of engagement within an announcement tool as well. And it's not just about having a discussion, but it's about giving out announcements and students can interact and kind of say, hey, this wasn't clear, or ask a follow-up question. That was a really helpful. Thank you so much, Dylan. Ed, you had something you wanted to comment on.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on Dylan's comment, using the announcements, when I use them, I also like, if I'm talking about something in the announcement, like the assignment or the discussion, I like to also include the link to that right inside there so they can go straight from the announcement that I've made straight to whatever I'm talking about as well. Taking less clicks out of it for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Catherine has a nice comment in the chat. Inviting students to comment, add questions to announcements is great because the whole class sees them and can interact. Absolutely, yeah. And it's, again, like picking it up on Ed and Dylan, is that it's less clicks to get to that interaction as well. It's just something that easy in the announcement, you can do this easily. Anne, you had something you wanted to talk about as well before Kathy brings up monitoring student engagement.
Yeah, I just have a question about the logistics of comments on announcements. So one time when I first started using Canvas, I allowed people to post replies, and what ended up happening was my announcement went out in an email. One of the TAs replied to it thinking they were just replying to me, but then it was like sitting there under the announcement. And so I'm wondering, is there a way for instructors to get notifications when those replies come in? Otherwise, I feel like I was just setting myself up for drama because I didn't know how to monitor it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Ed or Dylan, did you want to comment on that? I haven't used the reply feature very much in the announcements. I'd be interested to hear more about that if you had anything to comment on.
I actually disabled the comments on announcements, and that's kind of going against what I know. All of a sudden I'm like, wait, right turn. For the most part, because the announcements, I also find it confusing. Like Anna said, people are commenting here, people are commenting there, and I find if they have a question about it, they should reply to me directly, and that's usually what I say. Otherwise, it just is another avenue that I have to monitor for things. So for the most part, I actually kind of turn those off because they're, at least the way I use them, they're meant kind of more for a one-way communication. But that's just me. Sorry.
And no, that's okay. I think, in the chat as well, Sonia's bringing up some information as well, like, how they're using it. And I think it's just maybe what your goals are with the announcement. And could you type that question into the collaborative document? And then I'll make sure that I give you some of the information. I'll go look up some information about to kind of help you streamline some of that stuff. The more step-by-step details. And if you want, we can talk about that as well. I just want to give Kathy a little bit more time. I'm sorry to not be able to answer that directly. That's a great question. If you just put it in the chat in that collaborative document, I will, or Ed or Kathy or I will get to it, or whoever wants to talk about it, they can type there as well. Kathy, I'm turning it over to you. So you can knock out my slide and start talking, and I'm going to shut off my screen and take a sip of coffee.
Okay, while I'm doing this, I think Anne had a comment or question, so I'm going to start sharing my screen, but go ahead, Anne.
No, I just forgot to put my hand down.
Okay, can everybody see the homepage of Active Teaching Lab?
I can. Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Okay, so I would like to discuss analytics, new analytics in your class today. When I first started using new analytics, I was a little put off and I didn't think I could get much out of them. Now that I've started using them, I can really see the value in it. I have used analytics with other learning management systems in the past when teaching online, and I find it very helpful because you don't have students in front of you. You want to know still what's going on. Are people engaging with each other, with the material? What are the trends? Should I be doing something differently? Also, I like to use analytics diagnostically, which I'll show you in a minute, meaning that if I have a student who is struggling, I like to take a deeper dive into what's going on in the class. So I don't just look at the grade book and say, you've got a bad grade, so you must not be trying. I want to go into the analytics and see what the student is actually doing in the class, because sometimes people don't self-report correctly. So if you're talking to the student might think, well, I'm engaging in this class wonderfully, but then if you compare the student to the rest of the class, the student's barely in the class. So it helps you to get an idea of what's going on, and so I am going to take you through that. In any class that you're teaching, you can click New Analytics. Now I am going into a class. I actually recorded a video on this today, but I did not have time to obscure the data yet. So you will have a very detailed video coming soon. But once I click New Analytics, now I'm going into a class here. You get to this screen. It takes you to the course grade tab. It gives you the average course grade. When I saw this, this just kind of confused me. I could see that these were assignments, but I really didn't know what was going on. And then I found the most wonderful thing. If I'm clicking the menu, data table. This helped me a lot, because when I click this, now I can see the names of the assignments. So if you are having trouble with that, the shapes like I was, just know that you can go to the data table instead. Also, I found that it's helpful to click to narrow these down. Let's say I only want to see the grades class average for assignments or discussions, so I could narrow it that way. And then something else I have found helpful is I can click right on the percentage to see kind of the distribution, what's going on with this. And again, some of this I'm going to click on, and some of this I'm going to just bring up screenshots because I don't want to show student information, but I'm clicking on this and it's telling me, okay, well, we've got a student turned this in and received a score in this range, another student score within this range. And if I clicked on any of these bars, I'd be able to see the student names. Same with missing, the same with late. It gives me the average grade, low and high. So I can see what's happening. I can also message students who, which I'll show you in a little bit, but they allow this, they give this feature everywhere in analytics. So it immediately allows you to take some action to respond to people who have missing work, people who were late, people who scored within or below a certain range. So I find that to be incredibly helpful. Also, one of my favorite things about this course grade section is that you can click here, which I will not because it will bring up all the student names, and you can select a student in your class. At that point, I switch back to display shapes, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So notice I'm still on this course grade area, the tab. The student's name would be here. I just selected it. And it compares the student. Notice we have a green square. So the student is the green square. The blue circle is the average of the rest of the class. So I can see for each of these assignments, and if you hover over, you can see what the assignment title is. You can see how the student compared. So in this case, the student is, there's technically a blue circle behind this. So the student is right in step with the rest of the class for these assignments. With this one, the student did not turn it in. And with this, you can see the course grade is much higher than the student. Again, the course grade is a little higher than the student, and it helps me determine how the student is performing according to how everyone else in class is doing with grades. So that, and I could again narrow that to just discussions and see, is this person struggling in assignments, discussions, quizzes, all of the above. So that's something that has helped me kind of get a better feel for what's going on in the class. And just so you know, you can also download a CSV file, which I've done quite a bit. And that's just something I can open in Excel and start working with the data and filtering in different ways. And again, I'm just going to bring up this message students who. And you can see here, I could say for the whole class, I want to anyone who's below a certain percentage. I might want to send them an email. And if people fall below this percentage, their names would show up here. I could even click to remove one of the student names. Let's say I know that this person has just contacted me saying, I'm having some trouble, but don't worry, I am catching up. And then I could send this message to the students. And this particular one is for the whole course grade, but once you are in assignment statistics, it's just for the assignment. But notice it's BCC, so the students will get this in their email, but they don't see who else got this. And since this also is at the top level of the class, if the students have any missing work or any late work so far, this would be a way of kind of catching those students saying, hey, I've noticed the deadline has been missed here, or I see that you're turning work in late. So just an easy way to connect with students on that. Are there any questions before I go on to online activity? Lane or Ed, can you read that to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a way, so Sarah asks, is there a way to see the emails that we send out in this manner? So using the new analytics. I don't get a copy, and I would be nice to keep track of these reminders.
Okay, you can, I'll show you in a little bit the communications that you can see. There is a report here, but also you can always copy yourself on notifications by going to Account, Notifications, and it's not default here. Conversations, conversation message, conversations created by me. This is off by default unless they've changed it. So I change this by clicking to notify immediately. And then that copies me if I'm, and then also other notifications. If you want them, you can click to, so announcement created by you, for instance, that type of thing. So any of these I would check back to see what you're getting, but also there is a report that will just kind of show who you're communicating with and is the person responding to you, which I'll get to in a minute. Are there any other questions?
Bill has a comment. Do you try to discuss grades directly, or do you couch your terms more broadly in terms of performance and learning? So when you send out those emails, Kathy, is it more just about the grades, or is it about performance and learning?
More about performance and learning, and especially I try to encourage people that there's still time, or you've scored below this, or you need. I'm looking for students to get above this, that type of thing, but then a goal, what you can do about it. So I like to be able to not just send an ominous statement to students like, hey, you failed in this assignment, period. So I do like to try to give encouragement. What are some opportunities ahead? If they have a chance to redo this or retake this, that type of thing. I hope that answers your question. But basically, I don't want to just let people know they failed or this is their grade or they are failing, except if I'm talking about the average course grade overall. Then I do want to be a little more specific, and I tend to ask if people want to meet with me personally to discuss ways they can improve, because everyone is different on what's causing their average to be lower.
Awesome. Thank you. And one last question from Sarah, and or at least that I see. So just to be clear here, we're contacting students from New Analytics or the Gradebook. When we're contacting students via this method, the messages we send are going through the Canvas inbox, and the notification preferences apply as such as if it was going through the Canvas inbox.
Right, but they're receiving it in their student email.
Right.
You know,
So, but it's
yes,
the same.
but, you know.
So the same principles that apply to Canvas Inbox apply to the messages sent through this method.
Mm-hmm. And just remember, everyone is blind carbon copied, so no one's going to know who else got this message.
And one thing to point, I think Sarah made a good point as well.
Yeah, please.
That, to use the messages through Gradebook to remind students to submit, so being forward looking as well as backward looking, so that the day before or so when assignments are due, that the students get those reminders, and helps to boost some submissions later on because they're just getting that pre-reminder ahead of time.
I have used it. I'm not doing Gradebook. Ed is, and I think he's going to cover that. But yes, I have used that to. That's been wonderfully successful to me. Saying the day before the assignment's due, hey, just remember, I've noticed you haven't turned your work in. You would not believe the amount of emails I have received. Like, no, I'm working on it tonight. I'm turning it in. So I think that's kind of helpful. People then know that you are watching. Also, I tend to, I try to tell people at the beginning of the semester that we do have analytics that measure what they're doing in the class, because I don't like people to feel like they're being spied on and this is just sprung on them, okay? Because I did have some bad experiences initially, not at UWM, where, I later said, well, according to our LMS statistics, you never looked at the syllabus at all. Well, I didn't know I was being monitored like that. So I feel like to build trust, I'd rather establish the fact that all learning management systems do track your behavior in the class. So that if I'm talking about it later, no one feels like something gets sprung on them.
Yeah, well, that's so important. Yeah, letting the students know ahead of time.
Destroy trust that way. Okay, are you okay if I move on to weekly online activity?
No, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going, again, new analytics. Now I'm going into weekly online activity. This is one that I do not switch to data table. It's easier to see and display shapes. Now you might wonder, why is all of this 0? That is because the course is already concluded. So I'm going to, you see this bar at the top, I'm dragging it here. Oh, there we are. So I can start to see, and remember this is by week, what the trends are. Now you can see average page views. So that's when a student clicks on something and looks at it. Participation is when a student posts in a discussion, when a student uploads work to an assignment, or when a student takes a quiz, takes a survey, things like that. The student is actively kind of entering information into the system. At that point, you're going to see, and you can hover over and see, you could click to drill down. Again, this is where you could add a student and compare that student to the behavior of the rest of the class, which I have used frequently. If someone is struggling, one of the first things I want to know is, are you applying yourself? Are you looking at these things? Are you actively participating, or are you way below the other students? Because that's a different conversation as far as, what can we do to help you participate more, to actively engage with this material. The other thing I do is I like looking at this as trends. When I have people face to face, I can tell when people are getting bored, when maybe they haven't been very engaged in the discussions, anything. I like to see if this starts going down for me, that's when I think, okay, I'm going to need to do some kind of intervention, whether it's something to increase online presence. I might put out a survey to take the temperature and feel what's going on here, what I could do to improve. And some of these are over breaks and things like that, which is obvious. But if I have a long downward trend, I try to deal with it before before it gets to be a bit too late. And then I love this. We can, how many announced. So we've got these students, these views, and then the participations are, again, something that they have done. But it gives me an idea of how many people have looked at assignments. And you can see people are going back and back, good. You can also narrow things down a little more in other sections, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I like to see if people, for instance, have looked at my syllabus, that type of thing. That to me is helpful, just to see what people are doing. So anyway, like I said, if I clicked in here, I could compare one student or one section to another. And again, you can message people of, hey, I've noticed you haven't been participating in the discussions and so on. Are there any questions about that? Oh, I also wanted to mention I like that you can filter these because I want to know why, where, who, so I find that helpful. You can see the total page views for Course Home. I would expect it would be the most, and people are looking at grades and so on. But I also like to see what people are looking at the least, in case that's something I really need them to be looking at. Is there a question before we move on? I thought I heard one. Blaine, no? Okay.
No.
Oh, keep going? Okay.
I think we're good. Keep going.
All right, so then we have students. I'm not clicking on students because, as you can imagine, that's going to give us student information. So I'm going to go over here, and like I said in my video, I will be obscuring things, but it's going to show when I click on students, it's going to give me the list of all active students, and then it's going to select student. So I'm just choosing any student, class average again, but, oh, sorry, hold on, I went the wrong way. So it shows me the roster of students. And then if I click on a student's name, well, first it's giving me all of this data just for everybody. But then if I click on the student's name, it drills down and I can see, and you'll notice that this is the student's name. It's giving me a whole kind of a whole analytics panel just for this particular student. So I can see the student's average, course grade. I can drill down. Anytime you see anything blue here, you can drill down for more detail. I can click weekly online activity, and that's going to show me, hey, is this person looking at the syllabus at all? Did this person refer to this or that? And then communication, I found very helpful because it shows me what the student, how many times the student is communicating with me per week, and vice versa. If I've sent 2 messages to the student and the student has messaged me back, it will just indicate statistics there. So it'll show that we are actively communicating with each other. And of course, you could message the student directly here. Are there any questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna go back.
Seems good. Keep rolling.
Okay, last one. Reports, which is new and I find very helpful. So you go into reports. This is different. The data in course grade, weekly activity, and students takes about 24 hours to update. But with this, it's almost real-time data, and it's going to give you a spreadsheet that you can open in Excel rather than seeing it right on the page there. Missing assignments, we'll give you a report on missing assignments, obviously. If you wonder about any of these, just click I, and it will show you what kind of data you're going to get. So you can run the report and filter. Again, late assignments. Class roster, I have a lot of people asking for that. So this is what it's going to give you, students' name, ID, and emails in a spreadsheet. And course activity, this one, the only thing I want to say about this is a lot of data, but it won't go all the way back. It's 2 weeks back, or maybe 4, and I'll show you in a minute. I click Run Report, and right now it's saying 2 results here. If I want to download 27 days from today, or if I specify a different day, I can download it here. So that's kind of a 27-day range. If I only want a 2-week report, I could click here, Filter, and Run Report. So I've found from testing this out, it's really like 2 weeks. If you go too far back, you're not going to have the data at all. It's 2 weeks prior or 27 days prior to really close to where we are currently. It gives you a nice spreadsheet, and then you can, I go through in my video how you can use the spreadsheet to filter and sort and get more information, manage it that way. Are there any questions about this? So again, that's analytics. And one other thing I'm going to show you that I have found helpful is I want to know how people are engaging with my videos. And I upload my videos to My Media. So I go to account, and I think we had a question about My Media before. It is the streaming server that is attached to Canvas. It's Kaltura. And so it's kind of like YouTube for UWM is how I look at it. So I go to my account and I go to My Media, and this is where I can upload my videos. And I do have some videos uploaded. And so I've got one here. I can go to analytics to see how people are engaging with that video. And I embed these videos in my class, but I can look at the analytics here. I just sent this to one person, so this isn't going to be. Always remember to change the date. I forget and sometimes think, oh my gosh, no one's been looking at this. So I'm going to click year for this one and apply. And impressions is how many times this kind of viewer appeared in a class, like on a page that someone was accessing, plays, how many times it was actually played, how many students, for instance, were viewing it, how long, the average completion rate, and it's got, now I would definitely not use this for grading purposes because sometimes students' interaction will not show up on this, but this still gives me at least a key. So I just shared this with someone not in a class. So it says unknown, but I can see this person must really like the video. It was 20 times completed the video. So you can see, since I knew what was in there, I played it twice and I just barely started it. So this would show your students and what they did, that type of thing. So I got about here. And I think that is important to just, for instance, I was working with someone 2 semesters ago who insisted on putting 1-hour lecture videos in his class, and I said, I think this will be a problem. People are going to drop off. And then in the semester, we did go into My Media, and it was showing where people dropped off. So it's something good to know, again, and you can go down here, average drop-off rate. That's what I was showing because I wanted this person to see that those videos were a little too long. Are there any questions on that? If not, I will turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Kathy.
Absolutely.
I wanted to mention or talk about a couple things on the collaborative document. I saw the first one and I was really intrigued. Online discussion response posts have been effective in building community and even friendships between students. I have been pleasantly surprised at the quality of discussion posts in my course. Whoever wrote that, please share with us a little bit more about that, because that seems like the holy grail we're all searching for.
Oh, that was me. This is Anne.
Found it.
Yeah, so it used to be a face-to-face course, and we would have these discussions. Well, we would try to have discussions in person, but mostly people would just stare at me until I told them kind of what I was thinking. And so maybe I just got lucky, but I've, instead of like having students take a test on stuff, I've just made them do stuff and discuss it. And it looks like they're like learning and having meaningful discussions. And when I ask them, like, do you take stuff away from this? They say, yeah, like this, it works for them too. So yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised at what they're upper level students. These are juniors and seniors and grad students, but they're talking about things even more than they would have face to face.
What do you tell them beforehand? Hey, we are going to do this discussion instead of an exam, or like, how do you prep them for that?
Yeah, before the class started, I made the choice that it didn't make sense. I had kind of moved to open book exams the last time I taught the course. And I was very just upfront and said, in this course, we're going to do stuff instead of take exams, because that just kind of fits the content and it fits the online environment. And so I think my prompts have just been very clear, like, okay, here's your task, you go do this, find this data, share it. The most recent one I did, it was a 2-week long process. They got assigned a specific hormone. They had to bring data about their hormone and some background information. So that was week 1. Then week 2, they had, I think, 3 or 4 days to go into the discussion and ask 2 questions. And then they had the rest of that week, so 3 or 4 days, to answer 1 question. And I mean, it surprised me, but it just worked. It's a pain to grade, but they were definitely engaging with the content in the way I wanted them to.
So basically, and I'm just summarizing, and tell me if I'm wrong. So basically, what it seems to do, you're taking a discussion, and instead of you're drawing it out, you're scaffolding a discussion, and you're breaking them up into component parts that the students have a task to do, and then students respond to that task and what the other students did, and then they kind of repeat, and it kind of builds upon it, sequences up. Does that seem to be right?
Yes, I would say it was
Awesome.
A scaffolded discussion.
So a scaffolded discussion that builds upon each week. So you have to participate in week 1, or you don't know what happened to the Mandalorian later on, right? Like, you have to participate in the earlier chapters, and then you get to.
The initial prompt had kind of pulled from probably like 3 or 4 different weeks of video lectures. So like, we were kind of working on a project, and they would have these other videos to watch, and I don't know how many of them kind of stayed on top of it. But then I just randomly assigned them different hormones. So there were 30 students in the class, and there were 10 hormones that we started with. So there were 3 students per hormone. So, there could be students who skipped a week of videos and then they didn't get assigned that hormone, so maybe they never touched that content. But then hopefully they went through and they read some of their classmates' post about that content that they might have skipped. I don't know.
No, and what I was really interested, right, just is as well as that you gave specific students specific tasks. It wasn't, okay, class, we're going to discuss the endocrine system, and somebody take this hormone, somebody take this. It's you, Johnny, you take this hormone. Susie, you take this hormone. Billy, you take this hormone. Like, you've had a very specific task that then they shared. So it's like, it's not only a scaffolded discussion that builds upon itself, but it's also almost like assignments that are going on, but everyone's doing them together or in a group setting. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, because it would be too much to make them all do everything.
Right.
And where they get to see what their classmates are doing, and I think it adds a little bit of accountability. Like, you might slack on an assignment that you're only sending to me, but if 30 other people are going to see it with your name on it, you might try harder.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think that helped maybe address some of the questions that I see in here as well, that were brought up. The one more I'm going to hit before we have to bow out is, how can you encourage students to participate in a full class session, especially given the online format where connectivity issues might be an issue? And that is a super great question, Mr. Anonymous Moose, or whoever wrote that one. The thing I was really interested in is that we've been toying with, and unsuccessfully last week. If you look in the top left-hand corner of your menu, there's a session menu, and that's where we're recording. There's also the option to use your phone for audio. And that can be really helpful if there's connectivity issues, because if the student has bad connectivity on their internet, they probably have a mobile device that they can call up the number, and then they can participate. And the video's clunky, it's okay because it's a static stream mostly. But if they can dial in on their phone, and then they'll have a unique PIN. So this was a problem we had last week. Don't give out PINs because it's unique to the individual. Each individual in Collaborate Ultra has their own PIN number. It's all the same phone number, but it's a unique PIN that gets them into the course and then keeps them in their particular role. But you can share, you can tell the students, hey, dial into the course, use the PIN, and then you can listen and participate and speak, even if your internet is really lousy. So I think that could be a helpful way for students to hear and to speak, even if their internet is totally bonkers. And so that could be a nice way of helping with that. It may not be exactly what the Anonymous Moose was asking, but that was just one solution. I really appreciate everyone's questions today. Ed, Kathy, and I We'll go through all of those questions in the discussion post. We didn't get a chance to hit them all. We had a definite course and a half syndrome. Maybe it was 2 weeks of preparation. We just kept adding stuff. I don't know. Great session this week. I always learn something, and I hope you did too. So thank you very much. Have a great week. We'll see you next week for our last session on syllabi.